Brinkworth was established from the need for a railway line from Broken Hill to the port at Wallaroo. Approaching the town from the plains in the southwest or north, or from the undulating country of the Clare Hills, the grain silos are a landmark. Their stark white cylinders reaching upward to the sky. When the Blythe and Snowtown lines were extended to join with the Gladstone line, the township grew around the junction of these three railway lines. This was once a busy centre, where trains met and the passengers had access to refreshment rooms catering for 200 or more travellers a day. In 1991, the line was taken up and sold, 97 years after the official opening. The railway station now stands alone as the sole reminder of the town's early days. The Brinkworth Centenary, held over the October long weekend in 1992, was hailed as a huge success. An event that would be remembered by past and present residents for many years. We join the large crowd for the opening of the celebrations at the Centenary Ball. During the evening, the official opening and book launch took place.
The founding of Brinkworth has finally arrived. We hope that this weekend will be a grand occasion, and I extend a warm welcome to all who have joined in these celebrations. It is hoped that you will all take part in and enjoy the activities which we have planned, as well as spending time renewing old acquaintances and making new ones. A special welcome to members of the Brinkworth family who have joined us on this weekend. George Brinkworth first purchased land here in 1879, when the railway line was surveyed through this area in 1892, and the subsequent town was named Brinkworth. The Brinkworth family was very generous to the new town, giving, amongst other things, land for the first church and land for the sports oval. We welcome you back to the town which you gave your name. And I believe there's a member of the Brinkworth family from New Zealand who's come to be with us tonight. And I was speaking to him. Last night. His name is Graham Brinkworth, and he said he gave up the opening day of the trout fishing season to be with us here tonight. So I think that's very special. There are people here tonight from every state in Australia bar Tasmania, unless there's a Tasmanian here, I don't know. We're represented by every state in Australia, thank you. Please receive our welcome and enjoy your time with us. The township of Brinkworth was planned on the junction of the Blythe, Snowtown and Gladstone railway line extensions, and as farming had been carried out some 20 years previous to this, the area is well settled before the township began. Before the subdivision into hundreds, the land was held by pastoral lease, and lease number 131, held by Hawker Brothers of Bungaree, ran by this area. The brothers, George and Charles, first moved here in 1841, only 5 years after our state was founded. With this in mind, it felt very appropriate that we asked Lady Frances Hawker, a member of the Bungaree Hawker family, to open our weekend. As well as her involvement with Bungaree, Lady Hawker has a keen interest in local history. For some years she has been a keen member and patron of the regional history group at Clare, and has recently been involved with the production of a book marking 150 years of hawkers at Bungaree. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lady Hawker.
Mr. Wickett, ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls of Brinkworth and visitors, I feel it's a great honour to be asked to open these celebrations here tonight. I was wondering whether I had been asked because I was a representative of the family that first took up the land in this area, or because I was interested in local history and had worked with members of your committee in the Clare Regional History Group. So I'm interested to know that it was for both of those reasons. I'm very pleased to be with you here tonight to share these celebrations, and it's wonderful to see such a good crowd. When I was thinking about tonight, I was looking back over the last few years and remembering the state's Jubilee year, which I think did a tremendous lot for all of us, especially in the country areas. We had so many celebrations and reenactments of things that have been important in the history of our towns and districts, and it helped us to realise just what had gone on in the past to bring us to where we are today. 100 years doesn't seem very long when you compare it to world history, but when you think of local history, you can realise just how important it is. Because we're busy living through these years, we don't realise how many changes are taking place and how everything is moving on. And unless someone takes the trouble to record all this, it can be lost forever. I've seen the members of your committee working for weeks and weeks in the Clare Regional History Group as they searched through the files of the Northern Argus and looked through other sources to find out about the history of this town and district. I've been engaged in very similar research, and one of the things I've come to realise very strongly is that history really does repeat itself over and over again. And whatever happens, we come back to good times, however bad things are. For a long time things just run along evenly. Then something happens. It may be drought, crop failure, falling wool prices, or financial troubles which are national, nothing to do with us. There's no way we can help these things, and we're inclined to get depressed and unhappy, say times have never been so bad, and things will never be right again. But I can assure you that they really will. The tide must turn, and always does. I was thinking back to the early history of the Hawker family, and one young man, James, came out here in the very early days and was a surveyor. He was working down at Wollonga, only 5 years after the state was established. He was marking out the road that went up through the hills to the south. It was hard work and a dull job. There wasn't anything to do in his spare time, no friends to pop in and visit, no books to read, and he got a bit tired of it, and he thought he'd go back to England and to his family. So he sent in his resignation and went back to Adelaide. And when there, he went with several other men to the Treasury to claim the pay that was owing to him. But the chief clerk said to him sadly, "Oh, please go away and come back another day." And then he went on to explain that the state was in a sad financial state, that the Treasury hadn't been replenished for some time, and that all he had left in it was sixpence. He opened the safe or money box or whatever they kept their funds in and displayed the sixpence. Now, can you believe a state that had nothing left in its funds but sixpence, which is the equivalent of 5 cents today, could ever survive? But we know that South Australia did, and I think that can give us all great hope for the future. I think we're very lucky to live in the country in these times, because there's much more sense of community in the country than there is in the city. We know that if we work together and help one another, we can achieve quite a lot, even when things are tough. But we all need a bit of time for rest and refreshment, and it's very easy to go without it when you're worried about other things. So I hope this weekend is going to be a very happy one for everybody, that you'll enjoy meeting your old friends and acquaintances, making new friends, and really enjoying the program that has been set out for you. And after this is all over, will you go forward with a positive wish and plans for the future of Brinkworth and the surrounding area? It gives me very great pleasure to declare the Brinkworth Centenary celebrations over.
Thank you very much, Lady Hawker, for those sentiments and those wishes and for opening our weekend. I would now like to introduce to you Lorna Jeske. Lorna is the President of our book committee. Lorna will in turn introduce Kevin Weckett, who will launch our book, and Kevin will officially hand the book over to the community, and Diane Gregg, on behalf of our community, will receive our book. Lorna Jeske, thank you.
Great pleasure tonight is to thank everybody who's been involved in the production of the book, The Magpie Creek Junction. Firstly, I'd like to thank Kevin Weckett, because without his foundation of material and photographs that he's collected over the years, we probably wouldn't have embarked on this momentous undertaking and project. I'd also like to thank the Blythe Snowtown Council, because they guaranteed the book They gave us the money so that we're able to pay our way along the way as the book progressed, and we're very pleased to be able to say tonight that we've been able to pay them back, and we will be able to pay for the book as well, because everybody's been so generous in coming forward and paying for the book before it was actually released. I'd also like to thank the Clare History Group. I was found a member of the Clare History Group, but I haven't been involved for quite a few years, and I was delighted to see just how much that facility is now used by people in the district. Helen Dickerson and Wyn Johnson were very, very supportive to all of us throughout the progress of research. They came up with advice. They opened up the library on very cold winter's nights. They stayed with us and they helped us as much as they could. A very special thanks to Clare Print. The decision in the beginning as to who was going to print the book was a difficult one, and we went around and we went to some of the bigger companies in Adelaide, and I'm quite sure they would have done a good job. Our problem was that we felt we were amateurs and that we needed somebody we could talk to. And Chris and Mike and Claire at Clare Print, we thank them for their cooperation, their tolerance, their patience and their continuing advice. Without them, the book wouldn't be what it is. They were marvellous and we thank them very much. I'd also like to thank Greg Judd. He's no longer a member of the community, although he taught here for a number of years also. And they say that you can't judge a book by its cover. I hope that you can judge our book by its cover. We're thrilled to pieces with it, and we hope that the book does it justice. I'd also like to thank Rosemary Pegler for some beautiful illustrations that she did for us for the book also. Materials that we didn't put into the book are going to be housed in the museum, and hopefully after this weekend we'll have the money to be able to organise them so they're accessible to the community. It's very hard when you're standing here in 1992 to know what's going to be important to the younger generation and the next generation coming on. We now have all that material there, so if there's something important that we have missed out that we didn't put the importance onto and we didn't put it into the book, the record is still there in the museum, and I think that's a very, very valuable asset to the community. I'd also like to thank you, the community, past and present, who we were confident would buy the book. If we hadn't have had that confidence in you, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So I thank you all for coming today and for buying the book. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. When plans were made to extend the Blythe railway system to Gladstone, it was also planned to extend the Wallaroo-Snowdown railway system to meet this line and so provide access from Broken Hill to the port facilities at Wallaroo. As this junction of these two railway line systems was in the Magpie Creek area, this became known as the Magpie Creek Junction. A private township was surveyed on land belonging to the Brinkworth family in July 1892 and named Brinkworth after the late George Brinkworth. These town allotments were offered for sale by auction on the 11th of November 1892, and that is the actual date of our centenary. It was decided to produce a book as part of our centenary celebrations to record the history of Brinkworth and its district. Many hundreds of hours in research and writing have been done by the book committee, and I would like to thank them for their efforts over the past 4 years. Lorna mentioned that if they knew how long it would take to do the book, they might not have been involved. Well, I had a fair idea, but I didn't tell them. I would like to also endorse Lorna's remarks and give a special thanks to Jenny and Helen, who have spent many hours in research of this book. Actually, I haven't lost my place, I've just gone off the track. I can't do that because we haven't got a track left. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the book Magpie Creek Junction, A History of Brinkworth and District. And I would ask Digreg to come forward as representative of the Brinkworth Progress Association to accept a copy to be placed in the Town Reserve. Diane, I'd like you to accept this on behalf of the community. Magpie Creek Junction, The History of Brinkworth and District. Ladies and gentlemen, I now declare this book available for purchase.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to accept this book on behalf of the community and the Brinkworth family. We are so lucky to have so many beautiful faces out there to see tonight. I've seen so many smiles of reunions already, and I think this weekend is going to be wonderful. And the launching of this book, with all its memories and the heartaches and the loves that have gone into this town, I'm sure that you'll take this book to your heart. But it would be remiss of me if I didn't thank the 5 people on the stage, because it's the 5 people you see here that have really been the backbone of the production of this book. Kevin for his initiation, and Lorna for her leadership and her steering to get the book published. Andrew for his historical interest and his way of communicating with people that is very special. Helen for her absolutely incredible diligence, and Jennifer because she's always there. She's just always there. A history of Brinkworth and District.
Immediately after the official opening, copies of the book and souvenirs of the occasion went on sale in the room at the front of the hall. Jenny Heinges and Dale Weckett were kept very busy. Bottled locally, the Centenary commemorative port is guaranteed to be enjoyable. There were glasses and mugs monogrammed with the Brinkworth Centenary emblem, Brinkworth Centenary spoons individually handcrafted from genuine 1892 pennies and halfpennies by well-known artist Michael Salmon and plated with 24-carat gold. These were a limited release, individually numbered to 100. And monogrammed and painted dog spikes from the Brinkworth railway line. There's Karen Zweck, and Dennis and Karen Wunke, and Bevan and Jenny Spencer.
There's Colin Lawrence from Melbourne and Phyllis Lawrence from Adelaide. Esther and Ollie Weckett, also from Adelaide.
Rhonda Man in the background, and Mr. Chirgwin, a former school teacher talking to Gillian Mackenzie. Elaine, formerly Craig from Brinkworth, on the left.
There's Clary Weckett talking to Joyce Nee Whitehorn.
And Mrs. Sess Everett in the white blouse. And Lady Hawker talking to Beverly Harvey, formerly Cornish. There's Mrs. Kirkner in the white coat next to Mrs. Reichelt. And here we have Lorna Paisley, Nancy McEwen and Cynthia Waldridge.
And hard-working Brinkworth and Snowtown ladies in the kitchen there. I can see Edna Altman, Joyce Adams and Lorraine Conn.
Back in the hall, Keith and Pam Hepner in the foreground talking to Natalie Dunstan. Cheryl Pearce in the blue, formerly Waggett. And here we have Gillian Mackenzie again. And Cheryl Sutton in the foreground, formerly Dolling.
And a good old-fashioned country-style supper being brought out into the hall. Next morning, a large crowd was out bright and early to see the police parade and inspection. Andrew Wackett is at the microphone.
Senior Constable Peter Sims, who was on his initiative, has organised this day. Peter's a funny sort of character. We don't know what he's going to come up with next. Last week he had a Channel 9 helicopter flying around in the town, and through Amadeus, his camel and its calf, the Brinkworth Centenary made the statewide and the national-wide news. Peter's been very busy here getting ready for today. I think he mows his lawn about 2 or 3 times a week. And Peter's certainly an asset to the town. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Senior Constable Peter Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, very great celebrations with the township. We're not at a funeral, so I'll get all of you to come in, if you wouldn't mind, and just make way there for my colleagues in the mounted carder, if you could all just come around to the front a bit. I'd just like to introduce you to a few people here. In 1990, wasn't it? In 1990, most of you are aware, the first recognised military band of Australia took part in the Edinburgh Tattoo in Scotland under the command of Drum Major Ken Aiken and the band of the South Australian Police. We welcome you all here today. 2 mounted carder, which in 1840 commenced within the police department. We have the President of the South Australian Police Historical Society, Chief Superintendent Potts, and John White, Superintendent John White, up here with the Black Maria. And I'd like to welcome to you my Divisional Commander, Chief Inspector Catherine Finnegan. Very good. So it's very good to see so many of you here. Very pleasing indeed. My mouth's a bit dry and I'm not sure whether it's nerves or last night's partying, but anyway, it's all good stuff. And if you could just pop back a bit, we'll we'll get this show on the road. Thanks very much. Chief Inspector Finnegan, Officer Commanding G5 Division. Parade is ready for inspection, man. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier on, it gives me great pleasure to be a part of the occasion of Brinkworth Centenary. Just before I introduce my boss, prestigious career, commissioned in 1985 and holds history as far as the department's concerned, in that she was the first female to be awarded a command of a country division, and we think that's all pretty good. We also like to acknowledge the occasion here, and together we've prepared and had made up a plaque which we'd like to present to the chairperson of the Brinkworth Centenary Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, my boss, Chief Inspector Catherine Finnegan.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the South Australian Police Department, I would like to present Andrew with this plaque and to say thank you to the people of Brinkworth who have cared for our policemen and their families all over the years. Thank you.
Chief Inspector Finnegan, thank you very much for this fine gesture in presenting this plaque to us, and I think it's most fitting that this be done on the occasion of our centenary. I don't think, I'm positive Brinkworth's never seen anything like this before, the parade, and I dare say we probably won't see anything like it again, and it's most fitting that this happened on the occasion of our centenary. The police presence in Brinkworth began in 1893 when the railway line was beginning to go through the area, and so there was about 300 workers working on the line, and it must have been a bit of unruly behaviour, and a constable was sent here to settle down the crowd. Plans for building this police station were drawn up in 1908, and this police station was opened in 1909 and has been operating with the resident policeman here ever since. Small country communities like this really rely on people of the calibre of Peter Sims to come into the town, and you can see what Peter's organised here today, how small country communities really appreciate what members of the police force and members of other people coming to the town can do. This brings to an end this part of our proceedings. We're now going to go for a street walk, head down south on the main street, and adjacent to the Centenary plaque, where we will unveil that, have a tree planting, a few speeches before the beginning of the parade. I thank you very much. This site was the Berrin household about a kilometre to the northwest, with the Brinkworth household Willow Dean about 2 kilometres to the east. 100 years ago there was talk of building a railway line, an extension of the lines from Blyth and from Snowtown, to join at this point and to meet the northern line at Gladstone. This very productive agricultural area was served by settlements at Rochester, Angle Grove and Condowie, but had yet to be served by rail. The local felt need for rail was backed by a government policy that no agricultural area be more than 15 miles from the nearest railway line. 100 years ago, an advertisement appeared in the Northern Argus for land to be offered for sale as building blocks at a sale on November the 11th. The talk of building a railway line had now turned to reality, and a township was being planned. 100 years ago, the gentleman on my left, Thomas Garfield Chesson, was a 3-month-old baby living in his parents' house, about 3 kilometres north of this spot. Tommy, as he is known, is actually older than the town. He grew up on his parents' farm, went to the newly built school at Brinkworth, and can recall seeing the first motor car in the area. He worked the family farm until his retirement into Brinkworth, where he lived until moving to Lemire Homes at Snowdown several years ago. In what must be truly unique, we are indeed fortunate in having a centenarian present on this occasion. And how much pleasure I have much pleasure in asking Thomas Garfield Chesson to unveil a plaque commemorating the centenary of our town. We do not need to ask Tommy to say any words, as his presence here says it all. Thank you, Mr. Chesson. The vehicle on the monument, as you can see, is a quad car. It's a service vehicle of the type which was used to service this area, and we felt it very appropriate that, seeing there's no railway line here anymore, we're no longer a railway town, we've got a permanent reminder of how our township of Brinkworth began. The stone on which the plaque is mounted actually comes from the house in which Tommy grew up as a child. 2 other centenarians who have also had an association with Brinkworth are Mrs. Bettis, nee Clutterham from Kadina. She turned 102 in June, and she lives in the elderly citizens' home there. And she was on the first enrolment at the Brinkworth School. There's also a Mrs. Kelly, nee Coombe, from the Fullerton Homes in Adelaide, and she turned 100 this year as well. And both those people have had an association with Brinkworth, and they're over their 100. In recognition of many years of community service, and as one of the early Brinkworth families, it was felt that the honour of planting the centenary tree should go to Mr. Keith Adams. Keith served on the Snowdown District Council for over 16 years, as a Justice of the Peace for 38 years, and in 1983 was a recipient of the Citizen of Australia Award on Australia Day. Over the years, he has had an association with football, cricket, EFS, Progress Association, Boy Scouts, Brinkworth Institute, United Farmers and Stock Owners, Liberal Country League, amongst others. Keith has been suffering from indifferent health for some time, and I know that a real desire of his was to be with us on this occasion. The tree which has been planted is a Eucalyptus odorata, a mallee type, indigenous to this area. Mr. Adams, I ask you to plant our centenary tree.
The Brinkworth Floral Art Club made this contribution to the celebrations, adjacent to the monument. Congratulations on the town's centenary were expressed by Mr. Ivan Venning, Member for Custance, Mr. Graham Chapman, Chairman of the District Council of Blythe Snowtown, and Mr. Roland McEwen as Local Councillor.
People of the State Parliament, as the State Representative, I do wish you and the town of Brinkworth the best wishes and congratulations on achieving this 100 years. It's a fantastic area in which to live, Brinkworth has been a unique town. Of course, we've got the two regrets. There's two regrets that I have anyway. First of all, the fact that there isn't a railway line here is an absolute disgrace, ladies and gentlemen, a total disgrace. Government has chosen. It's our forefathers. It's Mr Chesson's colleagues that put the railway line there. This town owes its very formation to that railway line. The fact that it's not there is just government bureaucracy at the worst. Surely it ought to have been left there. Surely private enterprise ought to have been given a go. There are plenty of options. You can see the state of our roads. We just might need those steel rails. In fact, I'm fairly sure we are going to need them. So, but it is sad, and I only live in hope that we will one day put the railway line back, because Brinkworth is in a very critical strategic place for any future railway lines. But it is very sad that they had to pull them up just last year with the Centenary coming on. The other regret, Mr Chairman, is that, as you said, that this area won't be in customs after the next election. That does give me a lot of grief, because not only are you marvellous people, 3/4 of you vote Liberal. So, but never fear, the boundary's just over the horizon there, and please feel free at any time, at any future time, if I'm the member, please feel free to contact me. But once again, it's a lovely day. Congratulations on this landmark. On behalf of the state government, well done.
Thank you for the opportunity or the invitation to be here today and to be a part of your celebrations, and for the opportunity just to say a few words at this particular time. When I heard the weather forecast Thursday dinner time, my thoughts immediately went to the fact that it was the Brinkworth Centenary, and I was wondering how the Centenary Committee were going to cope with the way the weather was predicted to be at that time. I think the forecast was for continuous heavy rain for today. I'm sure that your prayers have been answered in the sort of day that we have today, and that's great. I believe that a special functions such as this Brinkworth Centenary, I believe, are tremendously important for our rural communities today. I believe that it brings the whole community together. It necessitates everyone in the community getting behind the leaders that you have and the committees that have been set up. And I'm sure that that's happened on this for this occasion here in the community of Brinkworth. I'm sure that as you've made your plans over the last 3 years or however long it's been, it seems a considerable length of time to many of you, I'm sure, but I'm sure that you've done that with real enthusiasm, looking forward to this event coming to fruition. And I'm sure that it hasn't always been easy. I'm sure that you've had your differences of opinion. Perhaps you've had different ideas of how things should be run or what should be organised and included in the program. But I'm sure that as you've worked your way through those things, that there's been a real harmony and a real determination to make this weekend successful. And I believe that will only stand your community in good stead in the future, in welding people together in a community such as you have here at Brinkworth. On behalf of the Blyth Snowtown Council, I would want to congratulate you on the way that you've organised this weekend, the splendid way that you've done that, and I wish you a very successful weekend.
To reply on behalf of the committee and the people that have put in so much time and effort for the book, and also for the floral art decorations, the work around the Oval, the Institute last night, and for the things that will happen again tomorrow for our service and back to school. Also, I'd like our centenarian, Mr Chesson, Mr Plugger Adams, for their part in the ceremony. Some people have asked, is Plugger the oldest person still residing in Brinkworth? Yes, as regards being born here, he is, but there is one or two that is older. But these things, some people ask, and some wonder who they are and what's not, but that is what is happening. There's not much more, Mr Chairman, that I would like to say. As I said, there's been enough speeches made all around, but I do also thank the member for Customs, the chairman of the District Council of Blyth Snowdown, for their words to the community and to the town in general. some of those remarks. Yes, history is past, and also we do agree with Ivan of the railway being taken from this town. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is enough from me, but on behalf of the Book Committee and the Centenary Committee, we thank you all and hope that you are here and remain with us until tomorrow to enjoy the full weekend. Thank you.
The street parade which followed received many favourable comments. Your commentators are Helen Weckett, Kevin Weckett and Peter Sims.
And what a beautiful Saturday morning we have here for the Brinkworth Centenary Street Parade. How lucky we've been. We've had rain right up to now. And here we have the Mounted Carter, members of the South Australian Police Mounted Carter, the band of the South Australian Police led by Drum Major Sergeant Ken Eichen. They put on a good show down there in front of the police station, Helen.
They certainly did. It was something for the whole town to remember.
I think we've caught them here just as they're changing their music, getting ready to fire up once again.
Brinkworth Township certainly hasn't seen anything like this ever, and not likely to see this display ever again.
Here comes the Diggers, the returned servicemen from the Brinkworth and Districts RSL.
They're followed by Bill Cabot and his restored Army Jeep.
And look, here's Kevin Weckett coming along.
That's the 1927 Ford T Roadster with Keith Adams as passenger.
He did a fine job down there with the planting of his tree in the Memorial Gardens. And the police bus there with some returned servicemen on it. It's over 1.5 kilometres this street parade length, and some of them obviously can't make the whole distance.
They're followed by the 1924 Ford T, originally purchased by George Morrison. Betty Morrison, the daughter of George, is passenger in the Ford T, which is driven by Glenn Smith.
And we have the vehicle of the Mounted Carter there, and the horse float, which brought the horses up for this momentous day.
They're such majestic creatures, aren't they, Peter?
Beautiful. Well trained and disciplined. And here we have the traffic display, which had their input, sponsored by SGIC. And of course the band, there's 36 in the band, and with all their equipment they have to carry them around somehow, and this is the equipment van for the band on the beat.
Oh look, there's some local children on their small bikes. Beautifully decorated.
What have we got here?
Oh, this looks like the formerly the Mothers and Babies, now the Child, Adolescent and Family Health Service members of the Brinkworth branch. I think we have coming up is that Sharon Weckett?
Yes.
Lisa Craig, Heather Clark, Judy Goss, Cheryl Welke.
Some of the children
Beautiful
there.
wicker pram. It's an antique. And Penny Hinges. Nicely
Penny's
decorated.
friend.
In the distance, we have coming along the Brinkworth kindergarten float. This float consists of a huge birthday cake. It was most decorative, and who have we got carrying the banner?
There's Richard and Amanda Spencer there.
We have Leanne Whitehead pulling the float.
Pulling the float with the director,
There's
Trish Smill.
And there's Rosie Sweat giving us a wave.
And they're all singing happy birthday. Very appropriate for this centenary weekend.
And coming up is Michael Jeske driving the Twin City tractor, which has recently been restored and has been the Jeske family tractor for many years.
How old did you say that was, Kev?
It's about a 1935 model. And Stuart Weckett driving the restored Twin City tractor belonging to Robert Weckett.
About the same era?
About the same era. And coming up was a 49 Pilot driven by Philip Veron, which was purchased new by Charlie Weckett, and his daughters Esther and Ollie owned it for quite a while after that. They're followed by 28 Graham Page, driven by Kurt Smith.
That car's been driven for many weddings, hasn't it, Kevin?
That's correct.
Representation here from the South Australian Police Historical Society. We have the driver, Superintendent John White, Rosemary and Joshua Sims up there on the Black Maria with the President of the South Australian Police Historical Society, Chief Superintendent Bob Potts. Now used as a museum.
And following, two beautifully dressed visitors specially came for the parade.
The 25 Buick of Graham Burgess following these people. This has recently been to Ayers Rock and back.
And the Lions Club from Snowtown's supported with a lovely float, and I wonder who the teddy bear is.
I think it's Peter Ellis there from the Covan Park over in Snowtown.
One round behind too.
And the traffic community service display of the police department. Seem to have half the police department up here for the weekend.
Brinkworth will never see that again, Peter. And I think we can thank Peter for that too.
We now see the restored John Deere tractor of Ken Pudney's pulling the lorry stripper with Doug Pedler on the stripper.
This stripper was used actually to reap Reldelp wheat back in the bicentenary year, specially grown for the occasion.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think it appears in the Centenary book,
Yes,
is that right?
That's right.
The Reldelp wheat was bred by Mr. Pedler, and Reldelp is Pedler spelt backwards.
That was Doug's father.
Oh, little bird told me a story that Ken took his sun hat off and wanted to change it over for his John Deere cap. Oh, here we go.
Here we have another John Deere tractor following up. This is driven by Mark Jeske and has just recently been restored by Mark Jeske. Getting a good close-up there of the John Deere now.
Beautifully restored.
He's got his John Deere hat on.
Now we have Brian Harrison in the 48 series Holden.
Kim Burford in the 92 Calais.
And Chris Clark in the 1936 Chev Roadster.
It looks like Gwen Pudney driving the Holden following with the Dollings Garage float. I believe on the back are the grandchildren of Ken and Gwen Pudney.
Yes, that's right. And there's Karen Burford coming up into the screen.
Looks a colourful float coming along now. And it's the CWA float from Brinkworth. We've got Bowder Ottens and Lorna Paisley, Nance McEwen and Joyce Cornish.
And Shirley Burnley, I think, was there at the organ. And Mary Chesson on the other side.
It made beautiful music, didn't it?
My word.
This float's to be commended. From out west of Brinkworth, the former railway siding of Kundawi, but now Kundawi district, is represented by a very, very creative float here with everything on it. I believe Karen Wunke is washing. Brian Curtin is watching his wheat grow, I believe. And who else is on
We have
there?
Dennis Wunke on the forge.
There's Jonathan Hancock and is it Justin Wunke?
Yes, I think so. Fantastic float, that.
And here we have the Brinkworth Lutheran float representing Noah's Ark. And on board we have Rhonda Clem, Peter Clem, Heidi Dutschke, Alana Clem and Anita Adams.
Now we have the Red Cross display. Looks to me like someone's having a blood transfusion in the truck there.
The uniforms are so spectacular too, and Mrs Green is being pushed by Lynette Adams and Kerry Walteater.
And we have Centenary President Andrew Weckett and wife Patsy and family in the buggy recently restored by Andrew. This buggy originally was owned by Perth Dick.
And here we have Chris Roberts in a governor's cart, formerly from North Bungaree, and Snowheen in his outfit, and Roger and Carmel Jones from Kalunga in Jack Hosking's cart.
Coming up now, we have the Society for Growing Australian Plants, referred to as SCAPS. Who's that dear old soul sitting in the cart there, Kev?
Oh, I think that's Helen Weckett. In fact, I know it's Helen Weckett.
And Secretary of the Centenary Committee, we have Rosemary Pedler there too, carrying her array of plants. Flowers,
and behind immediately is Peter Adams with his Clydesdale horse, who later demonstrated ploughing on the town oval, with Tibby Hinges riding side saddle, and the remaining Hinges family in their Hunt Club clothing.
I think that was Alan there too, wasn't it? It's a long time
Yes.
since he hopped on a horse.
Here's Annette and Ethel Grigg in the 49 Vanguard.
And the Yuck Machine. Guess who's on the back? Di Grigg, representing the Progress Society, and also KeySAP, Tidy Towns.
Good on you, Di.
Here is Jeff Weckett in a Dodge Ford owned by Colin Green, the milk vending ute, and Colin is a passenger.
Johnny and Patrick Graham there on the motorbike.
And local children, is it Bruce and Matthew?
Yes.
And
What have
the
we got here?
recreation ground float coming up here with sports represented: football and netball, basketball and cricket. Paula Dutchke representing the netball uniform of about the 50-60 era, Herb Mackenzie for cricket, John Paisley for basketball, and Peter Hinges in football.
And Miss Weckett there too, I saw.
Oh, don't the school children look fantastically decorative here with their banners and posters? Greg and Kate Ellis and Rochelle, I think. And here we have School of Yesterday with Lorette Weckett and Heather Hancock at their desk, Schoolmaster Craig Craig and Darryl Otton's Neville Weckett and Kim Walteater being cheeky there.
Here's Paul Mills and the Mills Gypsum and Super Spreader truck.
Looks like the Scouts coming up here.
Yes, looks like it. And here we have, on this side, first of all, Matthias Prenzler. Raylan Green is the scout leader, and I believe Adrian's on the float too.
This is Adrian on the other side.
Oh my godfather. Who was that?
That's Des Krieg leading the Brinkworth Bowling Club float. They've gone to a lot of trouble and they're actually rolling bowls. Is that Collie Wilkie rolling bowls? And guess who's representing the lady bowlers? None other than David Weckett and George Conn. Who's that with the beard at the back waving? Oh, I think Peter Quick was on there too.
And here's the F100 driven by Fred Grigg with the country and western display on the trailer. Peter Hanson's playing the guitar and Gordon Hubbard playing banjo.
Is that a camel in the distance?
Looks like an Arabian policeman to me.
Oh, is that the sheik from Magpie Creek? Looks like it. Looks like Amadeus the camel and the baby, Brinky, only 8 days old. The coat the camel is wearing was worn in the bicentennial year of this state. Actually, the sheik from Magpie Creek is really Senior Constable Peter Sims of Brinkworth. And look at that police station in the background, how immaculate it looks.
Here's the Brinkworth CFS unit with Captain Robert Green on the front of the truck and Kim Adams on the rear.
And here we have the Yakka CFS rescue vehicle, and I think that's Darren Harvey walking along the side. And the St John's ambulance from Snowtown.
driven by Malcolm Hancock.
And the State Emergency Service vehicle from Snowtown.
What an array of vehicles there have been in the parade. Vehicles from surrounding towns as well as Brinkworth.
Well
locals.
supported.
Oh, and the tennis club. Who have we got in the back there? I think it's Lisa Wackett and Darren Krieg on board.
We now have Ian and Mari Tulbrook in their 1908 International Buggy.
Followed by John and Audrey Hunt in their 29 Rio sedan.
In the 28 Chev, Jeff and Val Roberts.
25 Whippet sedan driven by Malvy Haynes.
Followed by Gordon and Beryl Button in their Hutmobile.
And Robert and Dot Levy in the 23 Maxwell.
And following them is Jack and Mrs Hosking in the motorcycle and sidecar outfit. The vintage cars in this parade are members of the Northern Automotive Restoration Club who have come to join Brinkworth in their centenary parade. We now have Peter Eaton in the 1925 Whippet, followed by Graham and Rosemary Good in the 1928 Buick.
With Deidre and David Kent and family in their 25 Dodge.
And Dave and Helen Walsh in their 25 Chev. And there's Lance Walderhooter sitting there with his riding his push bike and egg bucket.
He's trying to pass Robert Weckett in his 1926 Ford T Tourer.
Oh, and here we have Dale Weckett, the Brinkworth Centenary Committee's treasurer, on her bicycle, wearing her cycling bloomers.
And munching away on a minty. And that ends the Centenary Street Parade. And just a quick glance south down Main Street. Estimates of the crowd were around 1,500. I don't think that's too bad a number in a little mid-north town, do you?
No.
It certainly boosted the population of Brinkworth.
It was an overwhelming, successful day and weekend.
My word, everyone that took part in the parade is to be commended. They did a fantastic job in preparation and commitment to the cause.
And I think we can commend Peter Sims, our local policeman, for arranging the parade.
It was bumper-to-bumper traffic as the crowds flocked to the oval from the main street. The food stalls did a roaring trade. The large 80 by 40 marquee would be used later in the day for the bush dance. Mrs. Reen Grigg looking very smart there. Mrs. Zerner in the foreground. And Meredith Flood, nee Weckett on the right. Mrs. Olga Weckett, who lived at Brinkworth for some time and operated the Coffee Palace. The weather couldn't have been better. Ideal for a picnic lunch on the oval. Mignon and Gareth Ottens obviously think so. Sideshow Alley was a favourite with the children. This is Shebeck, another local resident. The South Australian Police Band is always popular. Let's join the others on the oval enjoying their music. Amadeus and young Brinky even joined in the fun on the oval. Also in this area was a well set out pioneer display. This plough was made in Brinkworth by James Stott, the blacksmith. A winnower, the lorry stripper, which participated in the parade, Andrew Weckett and his horse Mrs McGregor were kept busy giving rides in the restored buggy. At this home pioneering display is Jenny Heinges at the spinning wheel. "87-year-old Mr Carl Wurst from Jamestown demonstrated rope making. Clary Bruce, who has done a lot of shearing in the district, demonstrated blade shearing, assisted by his father. Sack races were one of the novelty events enjoyed by the children. Herb Mackenzie modelling the Premiership T-shirt. In the back corner of the recreation ground, Peter Adams demonstrated a single furrow plough. The ladies were busy all day selling souvenirs. Barbara Weckett and Beverly Hepner serving customers. Inside the club rooms was an extensive photo display.
There's Pete and Mark Weckett and Eric Weckett. Also Bruce.
There's quite a few Wecketts. This was a tug of war, the Wecketts against the rest of the world. It was quite amusing, really. Eventually, when the team was evened out, the Wecketts did win. There's Wayne Weckett and Robert Weckett.
Sid Weckett.
Dennis Weckett. Max Weckett. There's Mark again and Bruce. And Frank Nichols was the very capable compere who managed to keep things in order.
Wickets, you're pulling too hard at the moment. Now take the strain, gentlemen. Pull!
And the anchor man was Richard Weckett. Oh, and there's David Weckett joined in too. Is that Herb Mackenzie on the other team at the front?
Yeah, I think he's fighting for the rest of the world. The Wecketts finally got organised and won the day.
It would appear that a good day was had by all. The craft shop in the main street was open over the weekend. That looks like Gay Fuller and Lorette Weckett out the front. Inside there's a wonderful array of homemade goodies. The ladies of the town have been extremely busy getting this craft shop ready. While along at the RSL Hall, the CWA ladies arranged an excellent display of their crafts and handiwork. There's Laurie Zweck in the foreground. And that looks like Gertie Zweck. She was a Brinkworth resident for many years. The museum was also open to the public on Saturday and Sunday. The administration of this building, once the Roman Catholic Church, was handed over to the community in 1984. In 1986, Bishop de Campo of Port Pirie unveiled a plaque on the site. From then on, the property would be known as the Brinkworth Historical Reserve. These quandongs, which have been planted in the reserve, are indigenous to this area. The museum houses many items of historical interest to the area. The large stained glass windows were designed and crafted by E.F. Troy of Adelaide in the form of memorials. Each window was donated by members of the parish. On Saturday night, the Oval came alive with the sounds of the Rocky River Bush Band. There's Julie Dutchke and Barry and Judy Goss. Oh, and also Vida Onkey and Flora Elliott. This was the big moment for the entrance in the beard growing competition. The MC is David Zweck.
Forget the parade. Now, the most important people. Atkinson, could you just give us a wave? Then we have Ross Swain from Keysad. I think it's got a bit to do with cleaning rubbish up and things like that, so we thought we'd... Now, a lot of you probably are really wanting to know why or how it all started. Just a minute, the judge hasn't started yet. Just a minute. Yeah, I'm about to. Yes, exactly what happened on May the 25th. Very above board as well, as you might imagine. they were all assembled in the Brinkworth Hotel, there on the corner, the Junction Hotel, and Robin Longbottom personally made sure that everybody weren't cheating or anything like that, and gave the countdown for all the beards to start. So everything starts on May the 25th, and I believe now that perhaps we better get the judging started. So what I might do now is perhaps give you the categories. The categories are best untrimmed, best trimmed, the most colourful, best attempt, and the most scruffy. So I think perhaps I might just call on the judges now. I guess we'll do it. So don't forget, this is the best untrimmed beard. Now, no fraternising with the judges, please, contestants. Helen Wickett, could I just see you for a moment, please?
Blood on the side here. What happened there? It's all shaving.
So are we ready to announce the winner? Yes, the best untrimmed
Just
beard.
one last final check.
Above board, is it Miss Abatius? Or Ms. Abatius?
Oh, very well, this so far. There's a bit of a bush ranger here, though. Don't give me that.
Miss Abatius has, Ms. Abatius has conferred with the other judges and just about to make the final decision, I believe.
Very hard, very hard. I think.
Next category. So we now have Eric Wickett and Darren Krieg. Best. The next category is most colourful. Judges, please. I think the decision is going to be made very shortly, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that one there's got a kiss on his cheek.
Ms. Macabasius says the decision rests with her.
Hey.
This is probably one of the most difficult categories. I think by the look of the forehead it's Bruce Wickett, I'm not sure. The best attempt. Judges, please. Ms. Macabasius, Ms. Macabasius is putting a lot of thought into her deliberations. And I know the winner is Andrew Wickett. This is the most scruffiest beard.
Scruff up, guys.
The winner is Don Peel.
The final results were Best Untrimmed Eric Weckett, Most Colourful Bruce Weckett, Best Trimmed Darren Krieg, Most Scruffy Don Peel, and Best Attempt Andrew Weckett. And getting in the swing of things there, Sid Weckett and Pam Allen. Philip and Rhonda Clem. Philip Hinges and daughter Patsy. The weather changed dramatically overnight, and on Sunday morning a decision was made to transfer the community church service and back to school to the hall.
I'd like to introduce and welcome Neville and Peter Crevolt, who will be talking to us this morning in the service. Neville and Peter were both born and brought up in Brinkworth. Their father, Pastor E.T.B. Crevolt, was minister here for 36 years, ministering to the Lutheran congregation. I know it's 36 years because my father was in his first confirmation class and I was in his last, so that's quite a period of time. I'll hand over to Reverend John Prenzler, who will begin the service.
Gather to celebrate 100 years of life in Brinkworth and the surrounding district. We remember the pioneers who have gone before us, who opened up this country to make life easier for us today. We pay tribute to railway workers, to school staffs and local police, to business people serving those in need, to farmers maintaining our primary industries, and to those who, in all weathers, transport our livestock and deliver our goods. We remember also our ministers of religion who bring us together on occasion to thank God for his gifts and blessings on our land and on our families.
A funny thing happened to me on the way to Brinkworth some 52 years ago. I was born in Blythe. I must confess that has been a very bitter pill to swallow over the last 52 years, the fact that I was born in Blyth. Considering the tension that existed between the two towns. But of course, many of you here this morning are in the same boat, aren't you? You too were born in Blyth or Snowtown or Clare, somewhere in this district. And yet, as far as you're concerned and as far as I'm concerned, our birthplace is actually Brinkworth. Brinkworth is our hometown. Brinkworth is special for us. Brinkworth is our mother. And I must confess that for me, this weekend means I'm coming home. My brother and I indeed are privileged to be with you this weekend for the centenary celebrations of Brinkworth and the district. We're honoured to be part of the celebrations, and we're honoured to be sharing with you in this Thanksgiving service, a service in which we want to acknowledge the fact that it is God who has been with us over these last 100 years and has given us many blessings. Because I am longer in the tooth than my brother, I've been given the responsibility of talking about the past. I can remember more of the past than my brother can because I've seen more of the past, I suppose. I must confess that I received quite a shock when I began thinking about the centenary service. I calculated, for instance, that I was actually born in the first half of Brinkworth's centenary, or first half of Brinkworth's century. That Brinkworth was only 47 years old when I was born. I never realised that Brinkworth was so young, or that I was so old, depending on how you look at it, I suppose. But the fact of the matter is, when I was just a knee-height to a grasshopper, we were still using pressure lamps, kerosene lamps and kerosene refrigerators. Most of the cars that were being driven around the district looked as though they had come out of Al Capone's garage. And occasionally a farmer would be seen riding into Brinkworth in his horse and buggy to do the weekly shopping and to have a quick snort at Mac's pub on the corner. They were the days, weren't they? We call them the good old days. And I guess there's been a lot of reminiscing about them over this weekend. Judging by my voice, you can see that I have been reminiscing too. They were the good old days. So let's quickly do what the Israelites were commanded to do. Let's think about the past. Let's look back into the past. And when we do that, what do we see? We see men like George Brinkworth arriving in this area, followed by other settlers, clearing land, establishing farms. We see them working from dawn to sunset, to dusk. We see them establishing humble homes. We see their women working like men. We see droughts and bushfires and rabbit plagues. We see depression, sickness, suffering, death, 2 world wars, and as my mother keeps reminding me, we see bread and dripping. But at the same time, we see a community and a township beginning to grow and thrive. We see a Udunda Farmers, and a Twigden store, 4 garages, would you believe, a barber shop, a baker shop, a butcher shop. We see a coffee palace. We see an area school established, a school which has its own colours, green and red. And I still remember those first football Guernseys that were made. I can still feel their coarseness and how they pricked and itched because they were made out of sugar bags. And there was a daily train service to Adelaide and a rail coach service to Snowtown, just imagine. Yes, we see these things and remember them with nostalgia. But if we remember these things only with nostalgia, then we leave today the poorer. God challenges us today to remember these things so that we may be turned to gratitude, so that we may remember where all of these good things have come from. Yes, as we look back over the past 100 years, we remember a multitude of blessings that have been poured out upon this little corner of the planet. And there can be only one response to this, a response of gratitude to our great God, to the one and only great God. It is He who has blessed us.
Brother had the easy part, looking back. I'm supposed to look into the future. That's not so easy. A few days ago, Coral Dutchke was telling me how they went to have a look at the River Broughton. Apparently it had burst its bank, it's overflowed. I've never seen this hall overflow before either. And yet, I just wonder how much overflowing of hope is going on in the Brinkworth area today. But I guess it's always been the same, hasn't it? When I lived here 30 years ago, there were all kinds of wisecracks about Brinkworth. The only town and the only cemetery in South Australia with electric lighting. You know, all those sorts of things. I won't say any more, they hurt too much. But Brinkworth is still here. If the people that I knew 30 years are still here and they're like, then Brinkworth has a pretty rosy future. The people I knew were strong. Though I must admit, yesterday I was beginning to wonder when the Wecketts got pulled over twice in the tug of war. Of course, they were outgunned, weren't they, by extra people. Why else would people come here and build houses and shops and churches and an area school if they didn't think Brinkworth had a future, and plant all those trees? Yes, who would have thought that this would happen? And yet it's beautiful to see how the towns in the area have banded together and are supporting each other. At the Prenzler household, for example, I saw a calendar on the wall which was from the Brinkworth, Blythe and Snowtown communities. Imagine that. And who would have thought 30 years ago that a Brinkworth person would go into bat for Blythe? As Kevin Weckett did when he wrote the letter to the editor of the Advertiser complaining about the closure of the Blythe Hospital. By the way, my brother was born there, so was I. Who else was born in the Blythe Hospital? Put your hands up. Good grief. Why don't you all write letters to the editor? God, through His Spirit, gives you hope, peace, joy. He guarantees your future. Now, I'm not telling you that in 100 years' time this town will still be here. But I can guarantee you that if you make the Lord your God, then you have a future that goes beyond the grave to eternal life. Why? Because Jesus has redeemed you. The word redeem means buy back. So what is the future of the town of Brinkworth? I haven't a clue. But I do know if the people of yesterday and the people of today keep on going, then the future of Brinkworth is assured. I do know that the people of Brinkworth have a future. In fact, all of you who still live here or not, as long as you trust in God, keep talking to Him and believing that Jesus died and rose for you, you've got a future, no doubt about it. Yes, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
May all Christians be united in their love for one another and draw strength from the Spirit who lives in them. Lord, hear us. Lord, hear our prayer.
Help us to take care of the places where we live, our homes, town and country, and let the world become a better place in which to live. Lord, hear us.
Lord, hear our prayer.
We pray for those who have pioneered Brinkworth and the surrounding districts, and for those residing in the area now. Lord, hear us. Lord, hear our prayer.
Lord, remember those who have died and all who have shared their lives with us. Lord, hear us.
Lord, hear our prayer.
May the spirit of people in rural areas always be such that we will show hospitality, concern and love for each other. Lord, hear us.
Lord, hear our prayer.
As we gaze on your King with brightness, so our faces display your likeness, ever changing from glory to glory. Near and near their lives in your story. Shine on me, shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine, fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze, set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow, flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light.
After lunch, it was standing room only in the hall as past students, teachers and visitors assembled for the back to school. Di Grigg is the MC.
That we meet today on the anniversary of the opening of the new school. The new school that you see in the school premises at the moment was opened on October the 4th, which was a Sunday in 1975, and we are now October the 3rd, and that was a fluke. And we are very clever. I would like very much to introduce you to the chairman of the school council, Mrs. Lorette Weckett. She has been serving in our community for many years, and in the past 2 years she's taken on the job as chairman of the school council and doing a wonderful job. I give you Mrs. Lorette Weckett.
Staff and families of the school community, I welcome you all to Brinkworth Primary School. sorry about that, and to the school reunion part of the Centenary celebrations. A special welcome to all the old scholars of the schools in the district, these being Mallee Corner, Rochester, Yulimar, Condowie South, Hart, Bo Peep, the 3 Boco schools, Magpie Creek, and Condowie North and Plains schools. Not forgetting Brinkworth Primary and the former area school students and their teachers. Once again, on behalf of the school community, welcome and enjoy your reminiscing. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our present principal, Mr. Brian Prime. Thank you.
This just reminds me of my early schooling because I'm a bit on the ancient side too. The only thing I did tell you later on, we're going around for an ear inspection behind the ears, fingernails, you know. Righto, lad, you're out of line, you're talking in my office. I'll see you later on. I know it well. Being ambidextrous, my left foot was my right one and my right one was my left one. I spent hours and hours around the yard marching. So I went to school just after the war and you know what it was like then. It was march, march, march. And his flag has got significance, I can tell you, and I've got it up the right way.
Brian Prime performed the unveiling ceremony that was to have happened at the school, and then proceeded to raise the flag.
Well done. So we can also improvise too, so you know, no matter what we got, we can use it.
You to try and assemble your lines again to make sure they're okay, because we're going to now have the loyal salute. I love my country. I honour her flag. I salute her flag. I promise to obey her law.
Everyone was in fine voice for the school song.
We have the Brinkworth area school. Your praises let us sing. We love your name, extol your fame. Our tribute now we bring. Tis here we learn the way to give, to learn the right from wrong. We learn to make some useful things. Our bodies here grow strong. And as we pledge our love to you and service to you bring, long live the Brinkworth area school. Loud shall our voices ring. Very good. Wonderful, and now we're going to have the voices of some young Australians.
Side by side, hand in hand, we've lived and died for this great land. We've done us proud, we've sailed the seas in search of freedom. We tilled the soil
How about a big round of applause to the efforts of the Back to School Committee done under very adverse conditions. Diane Grigg rang at 8 o'clock this morning and asked about the plaque which was supposed to be unveiled at the school. And I said, oh, I dealt with that this week. I screwed it onto a concrete block and I put araldite on it and I buried it 2 feet in the ground so we couldn't get it up here, so we improvised.
Helen, you have just done so much for this community in the last 2 years. This is tear time. And I'm good at tears. And Helen, this community really thanks you from the bottom of your heart. And I mean, this just shows that the Citizen of the Year you were 2 years ago, you still are in 1992. And Helen Weckett, we love you, and the gift we have for you is something I hope you'll treasure, because really and truly, Helen, you take the cake. You need to open the present so you know what that means.
Thank you so much. It's just been absolutely fantastic to be given the privilege to be secretary of all this. It's something really special, and to work with such wonderful people who have really come together and formed a, what would you call it, a real strong, secure bunch of community people. I'd just like to thank everybody very much. I don't know what else to say.
It says here, Andrew, for outstanding service to the Brinkworth community in this its centenary year. Thank you. October 92.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you very
And
much.
Patsy's going to give it the first ring.
A good representation of past principals and teachers were in attendance. They were given the opportunity to step up to the microphone and introduce themselves, including Mr. Len Jenkins, who came to the Consolidated School as principal in 1942. Gay Fuller, administrating the Old Scholars Register.
Immediately after the Back to School program, small schools and classes assembled into areas together. Here we have the Hart School.
That's right, Helen. And some of the former pupils are the Henschke brothers, Roy Henschke, Clary Eckerman, Elmer Ottens, Valda Ottens, Clem Eckerman and his wife Norma, Melva Ottens and Jessie Morrison. And from the Bo Peep School, Cliff Dolling, Nora Ottens and Mavis Wunke, Esther Wunke and Erna Welke.
Here's Vernon Alm in the foreground, Pauline Brown, speaking with Colin and Sybil Mulroney, Ray Alm, Chum Adams, Grace Alm, formerly Welkie, and there's Alan Sweck all the way from Western Australia.
Mr. Len Jenkins, who was principal of the Brinkworth School from 1942 to 1944, and he's speaking with Kay Fishlock.
Here we have Barry Payne and Maureen Adams speaking with Beth Waldheater and Joyce Cornish, speaking with Dorothy McEwen. Jill, formerly Gunther, speaking with Christine Longmire, formerly Wunky, and Bruce Weckett. And Mrs. Davidson, formerly Miss Bray. The Yulee Mars School, there's Sid Weckett, there's Ollie, Dorothy, Una, Peg and Audrey, and Phil Hinges. Here we have Doug Butterfield speaking with David Weckett. Colin Welkie.
And Errol Sweck. Here's Mrs. Buick talking to her son Desmond, who was known as George when in Brinkworth.
We have Roma Sweck speaking with Edna Weckett. And the Hart School have assembled on the stage. Roy and Ruby are taking photographs. In the front row, there's Jessie Morrison, Nora Weckett, and Mr. Schultz, a former teacher.
Meanwhile, down the road at the school, students of the 60s and 70s were reminiscing. Marlene Goss, formerly Bruce, speaking with Kerry Krieg. Michael Jeske with some classmates, Stephen Welkie and Michael Smitham. Karen Burford, formerly Pudney, with her young son. Examples of the children's schoolwork was proudly displayed around the classrooms. Gary Zweck is talking here to former teacher Brian March. The biggest weekend in Brinkworth's history was nearly over. However, memories of this occasion will no doubt remain with people for a long time to come.